Welcome everybody to our interview. Today, we're going to be interviewing, and we're going to be discussing the topic of indigenous perspectives in technology education. So I'm just going to start off by going over a little biography that we wrote for him. So Dr. Mishak Gumbo is from South Africa. He began his career in education as a school teacher before moving into a career in academics. Dr. Mishak Gumbo has many academic accomplishments, including a PhD from Vista University. He is currently a professor of Indigenous Technology, Knowledge Systems at the University of South Africa. His areas of expertise include distance education, online learning, Indigenous knowledge, and technology teachers' pedagogical content knowledge. His field of academic interests include Africanization, indigenization, decolonization of technology education, distance education, and online learning. He has many publications, including Chapter 27 from Bloomsbury Handbook of Technology Education and Culture, the societal role of technology education, which we will discuss with him today. Sociocultural role of technology education, which we'll discuss with him today. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Mishak?
Yes, thank you.
That's good. All right, so we'll just get right into the questions there. So first question we have for you is, in technology education classes, how can we teach students about the sociocultural inequalities that technology has caused?
Thank you very much, Wiseman, for that question. Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Thank you. I would recommend we start by inculcating human values. And as you may recall, for those who have read the chapter, the crux of the matter that I'm tackling in the chapter is about values as they pertain to technology education from a learning and teaching perspective. You may adopt the principle of Ubuntu, which is another concept that I keep on mentioning in the chapter. Ubuntu, for me, though it's made of African indigenous people, for me, it's a principle that can be adopted worldwide because it talks about respect for human beings and nature, working together in unity, regarding each other as families. And I think as a human society, we have a lot in common. It's only the systems that we adopt and the cultural clashes that actually sometimes make us not to work together. In a teaching situation, as you are being trained as technology teachers, this is important, considering, especially because the learning activities in design and technology education require students from time to time to work as a team, collaborative learning, cooperative learning, learning together as a team. And I don't think anyone will want to feel comfortable to be a member of a team that will not accept them to start with. The team principles that can be informed by Ubuntu will actually work well in that sense. So lecturers may adopt, and the intern teachers, an academic elder framework that the Ubuntu principle actually espouses in their pedagogical approaches to nurture these values in the young, whom I call in this case students, not young like in age, but young in as far as their academic development is concerned.
Yeah, no, that was good. Yeah, a great way to integrate that would be in the group work aspect. Yeah, yeah. All right. So our
Mhm.
next question that we have there is, as teachers, how can we avoid imposing our values on our students?
This is a very, very important question, and I so much appreciate it. Because depending on who you are, where you come from, especially because of your own philosophy of life that is culturally inclined, there can be a tendency to want to impose onto others one's ideas and values. And I think by adopting a culturally inclusive and responsive approach will make all students feel at home in the learning environment. And I think this is very critical, that a teacher doesn't just step into the classroom and they start off by teaching, but they must actually prepare the teaching environment from a human perspective to make everyone feel comfortable. I don't think it will offend anyone because when you come in, you survey the environment and everyone will feel accommodated. If you start by just speaking friendly, talking friendly to that particular student whom you may notice immediately that they don't look so happy on the day, they could be invited to open up, and then everyone will feel accommodated as well. One needs to set the tone for the learning environment because, before the learning and teaching themselves start, you wouldn't want any student to be barricaded by your unwelcoming attitude and say, I can't hear all that you are saying because who you are speaks louder. This speaks for the attitude. And we need to actually do an attitudinal change in the direction of actually welcoming everyone. Consider these authors that I have read many times, what Koski and Ginsberg, who have written on the framework of culturally responsive teaching. It is anchored on four key aspects. First is respect and connectedness, which speaks about inclusion. Be driven as a teacher by wanting to make every student feel included. And then the second one, poise and personal relevance, which is about the attitude, so that the student will be able to say, yes, I can go with you. I understand you because your attitude is not standing in between you and what I need to learn. Three is authenticity and effectiveness, which speaks to competence, relating what you are teaching to the students to the outside world there, because what lies outside there matters more than what lies in the classroom, because even the curriculum itself is first from outside. But who it represents is a key question that we need to ask ourselves. And so, even if the curriculum is as an agent of change, speaking from human values point of view, one needs to actually digest and make it accommodate every student in the classroom. The last one here is challenge and engagement, which speaks about the meaning, relevance of meaning of what the students are learning. And this also is related to culturally responsive teaching, supported by Ladson Billing as well. And Peso also talks about kinds of curriculum, which are intended curriculum that we want to teach to the students. It translates into an acted curriculum. What are they getting from them? And what do they make of it? The next one is experienced curriculum, which is very, very fundamental. How do the students actually experience the curriculum? Will they be at home with the curriculum that they are receiving? Can they read about themselves? Is it representative of them? Take an example. Who are we actually citing? Whose work are we citing in the curriculum? Can they identify with this particular author or not? But you could keep on changing those authors so that in the end, in the final analysis, every student has read a bit or learned a bit about someone they can actually relate well to. Then the most critical aspect follows the assessed curriculum. Down to assessment, what do we assess? And because that's where it's going to determine whether the students remain in the class in that particular at that particular level or grade, or are they proceeding? Do we see ourselves having cost these as teachers in the manner we carry ourselves and as we teach them? And the last one is the achieved curriculum. Are they able to walk out, when they graduate, and they can still identify with what they learned? Has it built them firstly in the context of where they come from? Can they go back and improve or contribute to their communities before they even get absorbed in the industrial world, which in most cases is designed to be around urban areas, leaving behind the development that needs to go into rural areas.
Yes, yeah, those are some really good points there you made about creating authentic, engaging, inclusive environments there. That was really good. So the third question we had there for you is, we are currently studying to become technology education teachers. With the expectation of reading this chapter, we have yet to encounter any material on technology of other cultures. Do you think that is more of this material should be implemented in our training, or is it more up to us as individuals to seek out this information?
Weissman, my immediate advice would be both the lecturers and students should own up to learning about and embracing designs from other cultural contexts. Preparation is a good start, and how we prepare teachers, for me, is very, very important. We cannot actually leave it all to them. As lecturers, we are at the forefront of actually being change agents. As I said in the first question, if we adopt the framework of an academic elder to show how it can be done, and although being careful that we are not actually going to produce students who will mimic us and or clone ourselves in the students. They must enjoy the freedom because they don't come into the learning situation empty-headed, and that's the respect that we need to give to the student. But then we know that we play a critical role as lecturers in pointing the students in the right direction. What material I could recommend for them that would actually expose them and prepare them to work not only in monocultural context, but in multicultural context. So that if tomorrow, as being wise men, you get a good offer in Africa and you've got to go and teach there, and it appeals to you, you feel confident and not shy, that you think you can fit well with the cultures that you are going to meet, and make a good mixture where you are going to contribute your own ideas from your cultural perspective from the north and they from the south. So spending 3, 4 or so years in training without being prepared to teach in multicultural school contexts, for me, is culturally handicapping. It's not actually making you a social being in the full sense, to actually interact with other people and actually value what they can contribute and be able to move on with them. So I strongly believe that lecturers must plan resources in their teaching that will expose their students to diversity. This will, and at a university level, in your context, Memorial University, for an example, speaking from the perspective of some authors that I have read, who talk about the university must be must be university in the sense of accommodating diversity, and not actually try to promote one culture at the expense of the rest. This will arouse interest in their students, the lecturer students, to read further on other cultures. In technology, they will learn not to despise the design solutions that are contributed by their peers. And it goes beyond that, wise men. For one to actually inculcate a culture and the attitude of showing interest, and not only within the environment where teaching is happening on the university campus, but going out there, not visiting people that I only know, but social functions, especially in indigenous communities, if we really want to learn more about them. Attend a wedding function, see how they actually do their things, how they carry themselves, and you come back quite enriched as a teacher, so that even when you meet students from that context, you know how to carry yourself and how to actually relate to them at the level of teaching and learning.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point about going out to function stuff. Especially, I guess it's just the way I learn. I learn better with experience, actually going out, you know, experiencing the stuff, not just reading it on a piece of paper. So yeah, that's really good.
Right.
The fourth question we got there for you. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah. After looking at the curriculum of several different regions of Canada, it is evident that prominent industries heavily influence the technology education curriculum of each region. For example, here in Newfoundland, we have courses related to oil and gas industry, while other provinces have courses dedicated to agriculture. Industry influences curriculum for economical reasons. Do you think that this creates a barrier for the integration of indigenous technologies in technology education?
I wouldn't put it in a better way than you have captured it. That's well captured in the form of a question. And I would like, in response to this question, to refer you to an article that I wrote and was published in 2018 in Perspectives in Education, titled Addressing the Factors Responsible for Misunderstanding of Technology Education with Other Subject Fields. I'm not only explaining or describing technology in that particular piece, but I'm also critiquing the influence of the conventional industrial development on indigenous technologies. So I answered this question in the article squarely by relating the negative impact of conventional industry on indigenous technology. And in the chapter that we are here about to discuss, I've cited this prolific scholar from the University of Botswana in Africa by the name Reggie Mwalusi, written with other scholars. In his chapter he relates this issue as well, critiquing the influence of the conventional industry. I'm talking about big corporations, modern corporations that are driven by capitalism at the expense of, sociological, socio-cultural issues that we are battling with, looking at the gains, gunning for the gains at the expense of human life and conditions, the livelihoods that create even the poorest of the poor in the world that we live in. And therefore, in some of my work, I engage and I like using this theoretical framework, leapfrogging by Schumpeter, when he talks about the theory of economic development, where there's a tendency of new industries colonizing the space and then shifting to the boundaries, indigenous technologies. Well, they do impact also other modern, smaller businesses that have been mushrooming, and because they have the muscle, the economic muscle, they also render them dead in the end. But if you read that into a bigger scope, you could actually include, he does not include indigenous technologies per se, but that's my understanding, the logic that I'm making when I read him, that indigenous technologies are the most suffering kinds of technologies. Everywhere development is actually mentioned, especially in the urban environments.
Yeah, those are some good points
So
there.
if we teach, so if we teach students and we prepare them to be future engineers, architects, and blacksmiths, and we're not looking at it from an indigenous perspective as well, we are not doing a complete job. Last year, I had an opportunity to go to visit one area in Zimbabwe, southern Mashonaland, with my research group, where we witnessed this man who was doing engineering in an open. He just had a piece of a railway line, and then he's collecting pieces of metal, thrown away metals, and he makes the woos for plowing or de-weeding the fields. And he's supplying the community at an affordable price. So he has he has constructed his own furnace. He harvests wood in the neighborhood that he makes from which he makes the handles, and then um, simple material that he has built his industry with, which will not cost a huge amount of money to put up a factory. But his livelihood continues. He's able to even supply his family. But from a socio-cultural point of view, having that human heart is not actually selling these things quite expensive to the community. But then indigenous people have got the tradition of handing knowledge and skills generationally from the older generation down to the. So he tells us that his father handed down the skill, and then now he's working with his son so that when he exits from this world, his son can live on that legacy. And I know that, talking a dual approach going forward, where we can accommodate each other with what we are doing as a human race. Um, there are commonalities like this because I've witnessed a lot of Europeans who actually transfer the skill from one generation to another, and that's a survival skill.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that answer. That was great. Looks like we have time for one more of our questions here, and then we're going to get into some audience questions. So, last question for you from me and Julie today would be one of the major issues stated within the article is that values such as family, spirituality, humility, and sovereignty of indigenous people are missing from what is being taught today. What are some ways that we as teachers can integrate these values into our teachings?
This is very true, wise man. The economic world is producing economic giants, but moral dwarfs, unfortunately. And I'm sorry to say that. But that's what I see. That we seem to really be driven by, a heart to accumulate wealth at the expense of actually forming relationships. The last section of the article, the chapter, provides insight on how to teach technology from a socio-cultural perspective. Uh, uh, Values feature prominently in that particular section. The approach must hinge on Ubuntu, as I said it earlier on, which is about, among others, respect and not only for fellow human beings, but nature as well. We depend on this nature. If we cut it from life, then we are committing suicide ourselves. We design for the end users, so we must know their value system, so that we know we do not design for our own gains, but to suit their needs as well. So indigenous peoples' designs reflect nature, confirming their close ties with nature. In most cases, the artifacts that you see made by indigenous people, you see a reflection of nature in them. So they don't want to dissociate or cut themselves from nature. I know it's a controversial question. One may ask, so others are not actually respecting nature. We all do. We know that we have industries that have actually come up with game parks, and we actually take care of the animals, protecting them from any danger. But all that I'm trying to emphasize here is, preserving that interconnectedness between human beings and nature, which indigenous peoples are very excellent at doing.
Yeah, thank you for the answers there. We just got one question from the audience here. So, you mentioned that technology education, that is divorced from the values systems of the society that it serves, may not be meaningful to learners. How can technology education teachers adapt their lessons and curriculum to address this issue?
I think, wise man, to the person who's asking the question, it starts with oneself, transformation of oneself. You know, if you open yourself up to alternative knowledge systems, that's a good starting point for me, and it would actually put you at a stage where you will be able to accommodate other people and other knowledge systems. And I think that a lot of resources are lying out there. The problem is that we are book focused. We think knowledge lies in the library and that's it. But there's a lot that's lying around us, including human resources. What would stop you from inviting that elder in the near surrounding environment who's a good blacksmith, like an example I've made with this case in Zimbabwe, to come and just demonstrate how they do it in the real environment out there. And, that would be the start of good things because they can actually contribute into the curriculum that we learn from a design perspective, from the resources perspective, from any other angle that you could think about.
All right. Thank you very much for that answer. That was great. I think that's all the time we have for today. I just want to say thank you for joining us and allowing us to ask you these questions. And you gave some very insightful answers for us. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All
Great.
right.